In Mexico, the diplomatic personnel arrived in the country after Ecuador's invasion of the Mexican embassy in Quito. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu affirmed that there will be no ceasefire in Gaza on the 6-month mark of the Israeli siege against Palestine. In Russia, the government declared a federal emergency in the Orenburg region after strong floodings. Rescue teams continue to evacuate people in the affected area. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Mexican diplomatic personnel arrived in the country after Ecuador's invasion of the Mexican embassy in Quito. A press conference was held chaired by Mexican Foreign Minister Alicia Bárcena, where she thanked the governments of Cuba, Germany, Honduras, and Panama for accompanying the diplomats. At the conference, Mexico condemned the violation of its embassy, ratifying that the act is a violation of the Vienna Convention. For her part, the foreign minister affirmed that all preparations are ready for today's presentation for the case at the International Supreme Court of The Hague. And after Ecuadorian security forces stormed their country's embassy in Quito to arrest former Vice President Jorge Glass, Mexican citizens took to the streets to condemn such actions by the Ecuadorian government.
When this happens, it is a problem of great magnitude because it destabilizes Latin America and, above all, allows other countries to attempt to violate the Vienna Convention.
Mexico's reaction of breaking relations with Ecuador seems appropriate to me because it cannot be allowed that a nation invades and enters the embassy of another country. In this case, it was the embassy of Mexico, and we cannot allow it.
Meanwhile, Ecuadorian citizens have mixed reactions to the ongoing tensions between Mexico and Quito.
Firstly, I believe that there were two mistakes on the part of the Ecuadorian government and also on the part of the Mexican government, interfering in the internal affairs of the country. And as for the Ecuadorian government failing to respect the diplomatic laws that govern worldwide,
it is an outrage to the sovereign country of Mexico, and it doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem fair to me that they have done this. Unfortunately, it is an embarrassment for Ecuador before the world.
It is worrying because the consequences are going to affect all of those Ecuadorians. It was something impulsive. It should have been thought twice before doing it.
In the midst of this serious situation, different politicians and authorities make reference to the violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Let's review what the text says. The Vienna Convention provides in the first instance that the premises of the mission are inviolable and that the agents of the receiving state may not enter them without the consent of the head of the mission. Secondly, that the receiving state has a special obligation to take all appropriate measures to protect the premises of the mission against intrusion or damage. And finally, that the premises of the mission, their furnishings, and other property therein shall not be subject to any search, requisition, attachment, or enforcement action. In Mexico, a fire in an oil rig in the Gulf of the country left at least 9 workers injured. State-owned Petróleos Mexicanos, Pemex, confirmed that the fire was under control and added that of the injured 2 were employees of the companies and 7 belonged to the other oil companies. Pemex assured that all the injured workers are receiving proper medical care and that their injuries are not serious. The oil company also informed that the fire broke out in the pipes that transport fuel gas for the turbo machinery and that the emergency response plan at the facility was activated immediately, controlling the fire in less than 20 minutes. The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is in the Netherlands to present to the International Court of Justice the historical documents that indicate that Guayana Esequiba is Venezuelan territory. The meeting is held as part of the agenda of the National Executive for the defense of the Eastern Guyana against the territorial violation of the government of Guyana in the disputed region. For this part, the International Court of Justice declared itself competent to attend the claims between both nations, where it set March 8, 2024 as the deadline for the presentation of a report by Guyana, while Venezuela has until next April 8th to present its counter-memorial. This strategy combines the defense of Venezuela's historical position with active diplomacy and the effective exercise of sovereignty over the Essequibo territory. The ultimate goal is to reach a just and definitive solution to the border dispute. In Uruguay, the Electoral Court has authorized 23 political parties to participate in the primary elections to be held on June 30th. Among the authorized political groups, there are 12 new parties like Avanzar República or Republic Progress, Basta Ya, Stop It, Devolution. We are going very quickly to the Netherlands live. The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, providing statements after presenting the historic evidence.
In the Hague City, where this time the Vice President Executive, Delcy Rodriguez, is joined by a board by the instruction of the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, bringing important documents in this United Nations facility. Let's listen the official pronunciation of Venezuela. We have come joining by our people and the General Prosecutor of the Republic and their lawyers, extraordinary professionals. We submitted a document with the historical truth of Venezuela, an official position where hundreds of evidence are being proven that a crime was committed with a fraudulent evidence. We have proved the fraud, the historical fraud, and we also demonstrate how it's newly intended to commit another crime by the International Court of Justice. Venezuela is a country that is being recognized to comply to international law, so we are also making the historical position that never Venezuela gave its consent to solve this controversy through the International Court of Justice, but also we are stating that Guyana is intended in the 21st century to make valid a crime committed 125 years ago. It will be really dangerous for the international legality and for this court. We also want to ratify that there's no other way that the Geneva Accord, because it's the defense of the Geneva Agreement that allows legality. We are preparing with Guyana, with the United States government, with their colonial master and the United Kingdom. A aggression is being prepared against Venezuela. So we are in a historical moment to prevent and guarantee the stabilization of our region. So with this summit that we have made with 100 evidence proving every single lie, and we're fixing the official position of Venezuela, and I want from this moment to read the official communique of Venezuela. Statement from the Venezuela Republic. The truth of Venezuela will prevail. We will get the Essequibo back. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is informed of the presentation in front of the Court of Justice of the document of the truth and the historical position of Venezuela in consonance with the current status in front of the Guyana Essequibo. Venezuela doesn't give his consentment in the historical, not either of the decision adopted in front of this matter. In March of 2018, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela was informed of one of the hard events in the historical ground of this controversy. The Republic of Guyana erupted with violence against the Geneva Agreement and the international legality, suing unilaterally in front of the International Court of Justice the validity of the 1899 law. Venezuela, without delay, opposed to this dangerous play that runs against the law, moved since 2015 and back by the United States government with only one objective: to mock the regulations that have been clearly established for the parts of the Geneva Agreement of 1867. The despair of Guyana was driving with greed to steal the immense resources that are part of Venezuela. On February 17 of 1866, United Kingdom, Guyana, and Venezuela subscribed the Geneva Agreement with the objective to put an end to the controversy and the dispute through a practical agreement satisfying for every part. This agreement is ruling, and it must be fulfilled in a good faith by every part according to the international laws. Since its conception of this Geneva Agreement and during the works of the mix joint and the vicinity of the Argyle documentation was never in the horizon to solve the legal matter of the situation. Always the objective is being to solve the dispute, territorial dispute from the Guyana Esequiba through the political negotiations. Venezuela going through the decision of the United Kingdom and this situation of 1899 has a politic with justification of trust in this mechanism because of the decisive power that the colonial methods apply through this organism to get the things from the region. Only the Geneva Agreement is the tool to solve this dispute. Some declarations of the International Court of Justice had feed this untrust situation, taking in consideration the interests after. The greatest of all is to accept this demand of Guyana without Venezuela never making his appearance into the jurisdiction of the court. No disposition of the Geneva Agreement allows to justify this behavior, and Venezuela is one of the 110 states that doesn't recognize the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. It takes our attention that since 2015, and Guyana and their partners are taking as a stand this decision of the International Court of Justice. The confessions made by Rafael Trotman, Natural Resources Ministry, during the years of 2015-2020 in his book, From the Destiny to Prosperity, is being putting this unilateral action facing the International Court of Justice to validate the 1899 agreement. They're also touchable the influence of the United States to bring the dispute to this court, abandon the obligation and the practice of over 60 years to achieve a solution for both sides. That is the true goal of the Geneva Agreement. Was never thought during the signing of this agreement to look again this 1899 fraudulent award. There's a lot of other elements that discredit this mechanism, that this court hasn't complied to Israel any ceasefire. So This quote is being instrumentalized to get the natural resources and to destabilize Latin America and the Caribbean. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela submitted his solid historical truth facing the pretension of getting the rights by birth in the territories of Guyana Essequiba in compliance of the referendum of December 3rd, 2023, and the head of state meant Venezuela will never let themselves bring down by a servile government from the foreign. The only solution of this dispute is the Guyana come back to the negotiation table to make effective and satisfactory for both sides the agreement that they comply in the Geneva agreements, the only valid instrument between the parts to solve this dispute. Guyana, under a false victimism, is being backed by United Kingdom and the most bloody machinery of the human history, the United States of America. Today, Guyana, the South Command, and CIA are preparing an aggression against Venezuela, making a big threat for the peace and stability of the Latin America and the Caribbean. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is ratifying his full commitment with the main principles of the United Nations Charter, including the Geneva Agreement. Venezuela, as a whole, in a national union, it will validate their historical rights as a brave sons and daughters from our liberator, Simón Bolívar. It is the time of the truth. The son of Venezuela is being born in the Essequibo, La Haya, April 8th of 2024. Is the official poster of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Thank you very much.
Statements of the Venezuelan Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez after presenting the historical proof that shows that the Essequibo region is part of the sovereign territory of Venezuela. Delcy Rodriguez took the opportunity to once again condemn Guyana's servile nature of serving the interests of the empire in terms of sucking the resources, the vast resources that are located in the region, that ExxonMobil it has been granted concessions in this area pending for delimitation. Also, the Venezuelan vice president also spoke about all the different moments of the negotiations that have been showing and how Guyana unilaterally went to the International Court of Justice, which Venezuela does not recognize, and once again ratified today that it will not recognize that this court has the power to decide to find the solution, which already is in the Geneva Agreement, that they want to agree on the solution that will be perfect for both sides. Let's go again to the Netherlands to listen to our correspondent, Madeleine Garcia.
From this moment, as Guyana unilaterally came to this International Court of Justice to seek introducing from there and request a demand from the validity of the fraudulent Paris Award of 1899 that went through when Essequibo in 1966 with the Geneva Agreement. From there, Venezuela hasn't recognized as a international mechanism of law this International Court of Justice. The Vice President Delcy Rodriguez also had a book in her hands, also proof that confess what is precisely Guyana is trying to do. Also, as pressures have been made by the interests of United States, by the petroleum interests in Guyana, Essequiba, and the territory in this strip of. So 60 files are being submitted to this instance with the historical truth of Venezuela And now we're waiting during this day the process of this demand, the suing of the Venezuelan government. The vice president also said that Venezuela will continue to defend its historical rights in Guyana Esequiba, and Guyana has no proof that this territory. But in the contrary, there is some more interest behind of Guyana.
That was the report of our correspondent right now in the Netherlands, attending to this historical presentation of documents that before the International Court of Justice proving the historical right of Venezuela over the Essequibo region. We're going to take tune on this situation, and we're going to keep informing as this day unfolds. So stay tuned with teleSUR English for more. For now, let's take a short break. But remember, you can join us on our TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Israeli government affirmed that there will be no ceasefire in the Gaza Strip on the 6-month mark of the Israeli siege against Palestine. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated that the ceasefire will not be given if Hamas does not return the Israeli prisoners to Tel Aviv. He also added that Israel will not give in to the demands of the international community, adding that the United States shares the opinion of the occupation. In Russia, the government declared the recent flooding in the Orenburg region as a federal emergency. Rescue teams continue to evacuate people in the affected area. The emergency ministry announced that the overflow of the Ural River caused a dam to break and, in turn, the flooding, which has been considered as a federal emergency in order to allot necessary resources for an appropriate quick response. The emergency ministry reports that over 4,100 people are working in the area. The authorities report that over 6,600 residential buildings in the city of Orsk, bordering with Kazakhstan, are flooded and without electricity. Meanwhile, over 4,000 people have been evacuated, including 885 children.
People are being evacuated using watercraft, inflatable boats, and transporters that can accommodate up to 50 people. The evacuation is being carried out gradually, street by street, and people are also being notified through loudspeakers. We recommend that the residents listen to the advice of the emergency ministry and leave the danger zone, because now the water is gradually rising and it is expected that it will continue to rise.
In other news, in Brazil, writer and activist Ailton Krenak becomes the first indigenous person inducted in the Brazilian Academy of Letters, as dancers in feathers headdresses shook up the state proceedings of the country's leading literary institution. He is the first member of Brazil's more than 300 indigenous peoples to be inducted into the Academy, the rough equivalent of France's Rivière Académie Française or Spain's Royal Academy. Seen as a standard-bearer of Brazilian language and literature, the Rio de Janeiro-based institution has 40 members known as the Immortals, who hold the seats for life. Krenak, a writer, journalist, poet, philosopher, activist, and environmentalist, was elected with 23 of the 39 votes to the seat left by deceased historian José Murillo de Carvalho. The Academy, which has at times faced accusations of racism, has gradually begun reflecting Brazil's diversity in recent years. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.